or maybe more than 80 declarations from people who have experienced things just like that. And all of those people were brave twice. They were brave when they went out to speak, and they were brave again when they came forward in this court. In this moment where everything is uncertain, it is the bravery and strength of those people in our communities, whether they are seeking out immigration agents to record what they do, or if they are going outside in their bathrobes because their communities are being terrorized. They have raised their voices, and the court has responded. And that is the reason and the force behind what has happened today in the preliminary injunction, and it will be the continued effort of everyone. I will encourage people, if you go to tinyurl.com/ChicagoTRO, you can report a violation of the preliminary injunction. That has been used to collect violations of the temporary restraining order. tinyurl.com/ChicagoTRO. And we hope, and the rights that have been protected today will only be protected if these community members, religious leaders, journalists continue to exercise their rights in this moment.
Good afternoon. My name is Teresa Kleinhaus, T-H-E-R-E-S-A, Kleinhaus, K-L-E-I-N-H-A-U-S, with the law firm Loby & Loby. And the opportunity to represent the clients in this case is probably one of the most meaningful cases that we've ever had an opportunity to be a part of. The level of organizing in Chicago is unrivaled anywhere. The Trump administration keeps talking about professional agitators, professional protesters, and what inspires me the most about the movement that we're building here is that these people are not professionals. They are your neighbors who see something wrong happening in their neighborhood, and they run outside and try and stop wrongdoing, try and illuminate what's happening to their neighbors. And so what I love about Chicago is that all of the people here stand up for each other, they stand up for their communities, and they're not doing it as professionals. They're building a movement for peace and justice based on their principles and their conscience. So we're so inspired by our clients, and we look forward to everything they're going to continue to build here.
Okay, we were listening there to that press conference again, following the ruling from Judge Sarah Ellis today at the federal courthouse, restricting federal agents in their operations moving forward during Operation Midway Blitz there. We first heard from Pastor David Black. We have covered him significantly. He was struck in the head twice with pepper balls outside of the Broadview ice processing facility. We actually had cameras there the day that it happened and saw people trying to help him out when he was on the ground. That was in September. We also heard from attorneys who talked about the fact that the Trump administration calls the people who have been protesting agitators, professional agitators, but saying they're not professionals. They are neighbors standing up for each other. So again, a really big day as this case was brought at the beginning of October by journalists and also protesters who said that their First Amendment right essentially has been restricted and has been that there have been issues of excessive force for months and for weeks here during Operation Midway Blitz. We are going to be speaking with attorneys from the Headline Club that brought this case coming up in just a bit. It should be around 1:45, somewhere around that time. We'll talk with them a little bit more in depth about this case that's gone back and forth. It's been appealed, gone back to federal court once again, but today getting that preliminary injunction to restrict the federal agents instead of the protesters who have been going out throughout this area. Want to continue on with our show though now and talk a little bit more about some of the issues that have been coming from the government shutdown. Obviously we're in day 37 now, and lawmakers on both sides still really dug in, but the president is now calling out members of his own party saying they need to end this shutdown. So we're going to talk about the impacts on the ground, in the air, and in the economy as a whole. Andy Challenger is a workplace expert and the chief revenue officer at outplacement firm Challenger, Gray & Christmas. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
I know it's a busy day for you as well. As I understand it, job cuts in October hit the highest level for the month in 22 years. So, was this a gradual decline that got us to that place, or if it was sudden, what's behind that shift?
Yeah, we've been seeing an increased level of layoffs in the economy throughout the year. It started with the federal government, particularly with Doge cuts, but that has extended throughout this entire year into the private sector. We've seen those elevated levels, but in October, we tracked a really big spike in companies announcing layoffs that they had just conducted or will be conducting over the next weeks, months, and quarters. So to us, that's a sign that there is some real damage being done to the labor market that we might not be getting information about because of the government shutdown and the fact that we're not getting Bureau of Labor Statistics stats regularly. And I think it is something to be concerned about.
Yeah, that's kind of leads into my next question. What are the implications moving forward for the labor market from this?
Yeah, so we've been seeing a cooling labor market, means it's getting worse for job seekers for a year and a half, but it's been really, really gradual. The Federal Reserve and economists talk about what they were trying to achieve as a soft landing, where we got away from the extreme labor shortages that we were seeing in the COVID period, but the economy doesn't tip into recession and there's not serious damage done to the labor market. Right now, it looks like from a few pieces of data, we might be seeing an acceleration to the downside in the labor market that is concerning people that say these layoffs that have been announced could just be the start of things. And for our organization that works with companies that are conducting layoffs, we're expecting to continue to see this elevated level at least throughout the year.
Okay. So you also mentioned the fact that job creation is at its lowest point. How does that factor in? And then, like, what specific industries are seeing the greatest layoffs?
Yeah, we've been seeing just almost like a standstill in the labor market the last few quarters where there hasn't been too much hiring, there hasn't been too many layoffs, but there's a worry that we're now moving to the other side of that and that it really might pick up. And the areas where we're seeing the most job cuts right now are from the technology sector, an area of the economy that hired an enormous amount of people during COVID and the just post-COVID period, but are now kind of coming back down to earth and integrating artificial intelligence into their workforces, which might be having an effect. We're also seeing a lot of job cuts coming out of retail and warehousing. So, online e commerce, shopping, those are signs that potentially the increased costs in products due to tariffs and slowing consumer demand are actually now having an effect on those organizations in the space, and they're leading to real job cuts.
Yeah. Are there some industries where people should be looking?
Yeah, there are a couple areas of the economy that continue to grow. Healthcare is one of those areas. So, at hospital systems or health-related products, it's an area of the economy where we continue to see pretty strong hiring plans, and we know just from a long-term macro perspective that there's going to be job growth in that area over the next decade. And so it's an area that's a good one to steer towards.
Really interesting. Okay, and do you have any other like demographic type of information in terms of who's most impacted by this?
We don't have it broken out quite at that level, although I will say, at least anecdotally, from the companies that we're working with and all these media announcements, there's a larger percentage of the population that is those higher paying corporate white collar jobs than normal. We're seeing that come out of just about every industry. And to me, that is a sign, and companies are now explicitly talking about it as artificial intelligence coming in and being able to do some of those jobs in a way that is causing companies to change their workforce. That is surprising me. It's coming more quickly than I'd anticipated, and it's a real factor.
Just a couple more things that I want to get to. Do you have some advice for job seekers right now?
Yeah, my advice right now is if you're in the job search, don't take time off. Unfortunately, I can't anticipate that the job market is going to be better in the next 3 to 6 months than it is today. So when we're working with job seekers right now, there's a real push to try to get out there and find new positions, get interviews with people, do informational interviews, just talk to somebody at a company that you want to work for. It's a really important time to do that. And it's probably not going to be better if you wait.
Wow. Okay, and just on a final note, what would be the first signal that things are turning around?
Yeah, being positive again. Hopefully, we'd see some more job hiring announcements, and we'd see a slowdown in the layoff announcements that we're tracking. But that doesn't seem to be the trend right now. There's still the possibility that things kind of level off, and we have a nice, relatively soft landing in the economy. But right now, I think the majority of data signals that we have are pointing towards a labor market that's going to get worse for a period of time.
All right, I was trying to end on a happy note there, but at
Sorry.
least you have a realistic outlook on things, and even if it's sobering for us. Thank you so much for your time. I know it's a busy day for you, so thank you. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
All right, take care. Again, that's one aspect of the government shutdown, the impacts of it, looking at the economy as a whole. But we've also been looking at the trickle-down effect that's left pet owners even struggling to afford their pet food, their supplies, and other things. While SNAP benefits have been cut, we're going to talk more about that coming up. We'll take a quick break now. 7:19 right now, and again, we have a few big stories that we're kind of breaking into segments here. The government shutdown, we are in day 37, and let's just take you to Washington, D.C. As we take this live look at the Capitol here, both sides seem to be dug in still at this point in time, but we are seeing a bit of frustration kind of get to a different point here, coming especially off of the elections that happened on Tuesday. We're now hearing, President Trump say that he's asking his party, make it come to an end, saying that this is the results of the election are a direct result of what we're seeing in terms of the government shutdown. We're also having other impacts that are just starting to get to a different level. We saw that the Speaker of the House, Johnson, was trying to have a press conference on the steps of the Capitol yesterday and had this verbal back and forth with a Democratic congresswoman who was outside as well, just wanting to talk. And he said, well, we can talk in my office. I want to continue on with my press conference. So temperature kind of going up there as we take a live look inside, and this clock continues to go. We're looking at some updates now from senators who are saying, okay, well, let's start looking at this filibuster and whether we should continue to have the filibuster. Senators are continuing to aim to resolve the government shutdown in some ways. Majority Leader Thune is saying that Republicans are waiting to hear from Democrats over the GOP proposal now that they have to end the stalemate. But we're not seeing too much more movement there. We're actually, in this live shot, looking right outside of Speaker Johnson's office here, and you can see someone with a sign there. So again, the temperature is rising here, but the government shutdown isn't ending. Now on day 37, of course, yesterday made history, now becoming the longest running. But let's listen in as some of our lawmakers are weighing in.
We take up the challenge, because I think all of us here know the cost of health care is totally and completely unsustainable. It's brutal. But the reality is, however we got here, that families in every single state of this nation are going to be faced with premium increases they can't afford. So I just want to convey to you, Senator, my respect for your points, but that's my best response to them. At the end of the day, our failures can't be the casualties of our failures as an institution to deal with health care costs can't become the insurmountable burden for the families that we represent.
Would my colleague yield briefly?
Yes, yes.
I think the remarks my colleague has made are thoughtful. He knows since my days as director of the Gray Panthers, I've always wanted to work in a bipartisan fashion. But how do you do it if, in fact, in the Finance Committee, we have not had, by my calculus, a health care hearing in 400 days? Isn't that what my colleague is saying? Is that we ought to have these hearings? We ought to work in a bipartisan way? That's what we did in the PBM bill, where we got a 26-0 vote. I see my friend from California, the new member. You can't get a vote around here, 26-0 to order a can of Sprite. But it was because colleagues like Senator Welch wanted to find some common ground and get going. Isn't that what my colleague is saying, is that we want to work with Republicans in a bipartisan way, and we are available 24/7 to do it? Is that correct?
Well, it is. I want to be fair to my colleague, because I think he wants to work with us. We obviously have different points of view, but we've got to sit down, and we've got to stay at it, and we've got to have hearings, and we've got to do the work that we're blessed to be able to do. So I just...
Julie, yield briefly to me.
I will, yes.
Senator Welch, first of all, I appreciate you acknowledging that we do want to work together. I would hope that you would acknowledge that we are working together, trying to find solutions. And this notion that the fact that we haven't had a hearing is because we haven't gotten to the point in that where we have legislation before us to have that hearing on. But I just would like to make 2 points. One, once again, open the government. Number 2, even if we agreed to your request today, all of those people you talk about who are going to get hit with premium increases are going to get hit. with premium increases because this temporary COVID premium enhancement support was never intended to be and never was the foundation of what is driving, or did deal with the foundation of what is driving premium increases. Everybody in America is going to get hit with a massive premium increase, and it's not going to be changed if we give an extension for that 4% that goes to this enhancement. It could be like made a tiny bit different in some ways and in some places. I doubt it would make a dollar's difference in most cases. Let's get the government open and let's continue real negotiations to solve this problem. We mutually have talked. We mutually know that there are things we can work on to get this solved. I'm just asking my colleagues on the other side to quit trying to blame Republicans for the premium increases that are coming and say, let's get the government open and let's get together working to solve our health care crisis.
I thank you. I thank my colleagues. I would love to get the government open, and I'd love to be able to let folks know that the health care they had in 2025, they'll be able to have in 2026. I'd like the president to do what presidents do, and that's get the parties together in a room and negotiate an outcome that works for all of us. Whatever we do in this is where I want to agree with both my chairman and ranking member. We have real work to do on the cost side of healthcare. We really all have to take that on. But the approach to dealing with the high cost of healthcare can't be taking people's healthcare away. It has to be making the healthcare they have more affordable. So I thank the gentleman. I thank my colleague, Senator Wyden, our ranking member, and I yield the floor.
We were listening in there to some of the lawmakers kind of go back and forth really
Recognize
about
the senator from Virginia.
the
Mr. President,
premium
pursuant to
increases
Section
here. This is Senator Tim Kaine from Virginia, former governor of Virginia, now senator from Virginia, who is speaking at this point in time. Of course, Democrats are saying that their aspect of this government shutdown is, it's all about the premium increases that are coming come the first of the year. And they want some assurances that those are not going to hit everyday Americans. Republicans are saying, okay, well, we can negotiate it if you would go ahead and open up the government, and then we can move forward. But open up the government, allow us to open up the government, and then we can have those. But Democrats are saying if we open it up without an assurance, we don't know that what we're asking for is actually going to happen. We were kind of remarking here in the studio that at least they were having some respectful discourse back and forth. The bulk of that conversation was being led by Senator Welch of Vermont. At least there's some discourse, some respectful discourse back and forth between Republicans and Democrats there on the Senate floor. We're not seeing as much from the House side. In fact, the House members aren't even meeting right now. House Speaker Mike Johnson says he's not committing to a vote on health care subsidies in the lower chamber, underlining some concerns there, again, from Democrats, that a Senate vote on the issue will go nowhere. Even if it's successful, that it will go nowhere because the House isn't on board here. So these talks on Capitol Hill, of course, are coming at the time that we also got the big news today about flights being reduced. We know that the FAA is trying to work with this issue of air traffic controllers and trying to keep people safe in the skies, but they've now reduced flights throughout the country here, flights by 10% at 40 major airports starting tomorrow. We're looking at just one of them here from our live pictures, but 40 major airports, and that includes, of course, both O'Hare here in our area and also Midway in our area. So we're going to be pulling in some people to talk a little bit about what we can expect and how much of an impact that's going to have for people. Of course, as we get closer to the holiday season and there's still no end in sight for this government shutdown, what are the impacts and what should you be doing when you're gearing up to travel? Is the answer just travel insurance, or what can we be doing as everyday travelers to try to wade this water that we're in right now? We saw United Airlines started to put a plan in place overnight. American Airlines also sent out a notice first thing this morning to try to get some more information out. They say due to the government shutdown and nationwide air traffic control staffing shortages, the FAA has directed airlines to reduce their flight schedules to continue to maintain safe airspace operations beginning Friday, November 7th. Flights on Thursday, today, will operate as planned, but this is coming from American Airlines. We expect the vast majority of our customers' travel will be unaffected. Long-haul international travel will remain as scheduled. As schedule changes are made, we will proactively reach out to customers who are impacted. As always, they say, we encourage all customers check their flight status on aa.com or the mobile app, which will provide real-time updates. They say disrupting customers' plans is the last thing we want to do. To provide additional flexibility, though, during the impacted travel period, customers whose flights are canceled for any reason or who choose not to travel will be able to change their flight or request a refund without any penalty. In the meantime, we continue to urge leaders in Washington, D.C. to reach an immediate resolution to end this shutdown. We remain grateful to the air traffic controllers, TSA officers, CBP officers, and other federal employees who are working right now without pay, all to get our customers where they need to be safely, as well as our American Airlines team members who always work to take the best care of our customers. Again, that's coming from American Airlines just this morning. They sent that out about 9 a.m. kind of responding to United Airlines also sending theirs out yesterday. All of these airlines trying to figure out how they can now make things work with this 10% reduction to traffic. And again, that's going to hit both Midway and O'Hare airports in our area. So again, we are going to be calling in some assistance here to figure out what everyday travelers need to do. You and I, who are getting ready for the holidays, if you're already booking your holiday travel, I know I intended to do it this week, what we need to kind of prepare for. It seems like international flights might be okay, but if you have to take a regional flight, and for instance, if for us who are here in Illinois, if you're maybe going somewhere and then you're coming back and you need to go downstate. Okay, if you're coming from the East Coast and you need to go downstate, you would fly into Chicago, but you need to take a regional jet to somewhere like Champaign or somewhere like that. It seems like those regional flights are going to be hit especially hard. Not so much the international flights, but more regional flights, which a lot of people have to take. So we're watching this very closely. Again, 40 airports that are on that list, and the trickle-down effect that that's going to have for people who maybe have to make a stop here or there. One of the things that I heard just this morning was try to get on that first flight of the day. I'm not the expert, but I listen to them. Try to get on that first flight of the day because, of course, if there are some impacts, it's really going to be the trickle down throughout the rest of the day. So maybe that's one thing that we can all keep in mind as we're booking our flights for the holidays. That's where we are right now. We've put in a call to the points guy to try to talk to him about some other things, some other tips that he can give to us in terms of how to wade this water that we're in with the government shutdown, and now these 10% of flights from the top 40 U.S. cities that are being affected starting tomorrow. And as soon as we get him on the line, we will go live to him. It is 1:32 though. Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back. 1:37 right now, and at this point in time, after watching that horrible UPS cargo plane crash, we know that investigators are in the early stages of trying to figure out what went wrong, how that plane went down, but we know that 9 people remain missing and 12 people have been confirmed to have lost their lives in that Louisville, Kentucky crash that took place. Watching that big plume of smoke just took your breath away. But for some people, they saw some haunting similarities, in particular to the UPS jet crash and the deadliest aviation incident in U.S. history, which just so happens to have taken place at O'Hare Airport. It was an American Airlines plane that went down in 1979, and I want to bring in now Bob Clifford. He's an aviation expert and attorney with Clifford Law, who has a vast knowledge about these planes, these crashes, and even the DC helicopter plane collision that we watched. It feels like not too long ago. Definitely hasn't been long enough for us to see something like this again.
Well, good afternoon to you. How are you?
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I'm doing okay today, but we have these heavy stories for sure. This has been one of them this week. Watching that, like I said, really took your breath away to see that plane go down. People that were both on the plane and people on the ground who lost their lives in it. So I understand this is a MD-11 cargo jet, and it had a predecessor that actually had passengers on it when we were talking about what happened at O'Hare. What is your recollection of that event from 1979?
Well, I became a lawyer in 1976, and I've had the privilege of representing families in every domestic commercial crash since that time. And it began with the American Airlines Flight 191 at O'Hare in May of 1979. I remember vividly, I was on Lakeshore Drive in my car listening to the news. I was coming from a meeting at University of Chicago, and all of a sudden you hear breaking news about this terrible, horrific disaster, killing over 270 passengers and crew, where the left engine fell off. The pylon holding that left engine fell off to the airport property and runway, and crashing in Elk Grove Village, killing all aboard. It was a horrific event. As it turned out, it was called a DC-10 aircraft, 3-engine aircraft. And when I heard about this Louisville tragedy, my mind just flashed right back to that. Partly because I'm literally in the middle of a trial right now. We're on break right now from the courthouse at the federal building for the crash of the Boeing MAX 737-8 in Ethiopia. There's a trial going on this week, started Monday, where in that case, 346 people total perished in the 2 crashes, 157 in this one. And so all of these things coming together at one time is just a cautious reminder about how precious life is, about how perilous life can be. What we're found in that first crash, it was a maintenance issue, and even though this plane is 34 years old, planes have a shelf life, if you will, and so long as they're in good shape and running properly, they can go on for decades. This was a 34-year-old plane that crashed in Louisville, but the report is there was recent maintenance on it, serious maintenance, and so I got to believe that the NTSB, that has a team on site, as does Boeing and the engine manufacturers and all the other component part people, they're going to be focused on what has transpired with the maintenance of that aircraft over the last year, 12 months or so, and they're going to be looking very deeply into was there a flaw in the maintenance.
Yeah, and in the aircraft, itself, maybe like the manufacturing of it, you would have to ask this question, because you talked about the left engine on American Flight 191 in 1979 breaking off a wing, falling to the ground just after takeoff. And then in this week's incident, it was left engine detached after a large plume of fire erupted from the plane's left wing. That is eerily similar.
Oh yeah, it's eerily similar, and know that these big engines get moved around by maintenance people with forklifts. Who knows how carefully it was handled? If it's attached to that wing, I mean, it's very stable attachments. But if something occurred in the maintenance of the actual engine that caused a metallurgical fracture, in a lot of these airplane disasters, they look at the titanium fan disc. A lot of these engine parts are made out of steel and titanium. And if you get a micro fracture because of some inordinate stress, that can propagate, get bigger, and then lead to a catastrophic failure, especially during the most violent, if you will, portions of flight when they're taking off, where the engines are at full thrust. They're trying to take off of the ground. That creates an enormous amount of energy that's shaking, the very metal that is attached to the wing. And if there was a fracture there, that could have led to it. This is why the investigators are on site. They're going to have a very challenging a job because, as I heard the NTSB reported, that because it was a plane filled with fuel on its way to Hawaii, there was the burn to the plane is more than they've historically seen, and that's going to impede the investigation a bit, I suspect.
Yeah. I mean, given the fact that it was just taking off full of fuel, which they, one analyst said essentially is like the plane and it's being heated up and shaking and going up is almost like a bomb for that wing, the engine to catch fire and the wing to fall off. So let me ask you this. What are the things that you look at when you're taking these cases, and what changed between, from this 1979 incident? What fundamentally changed after it?
Well, what fundamentally changed after American 191 is the maintenance procedures, so that they took much greater care of how they handled the engines and the wing, and especially at the pylon connection. I mean, look, this may be an oversimplification, but it's very clear the pilots did what they were supposed to be doing. It's very clear that it's an older airplane, but there really isn't any clear evidence of a defect in the airplane. And so you have to say to yourself, well, what changed here? And it could be that somebody deviated from what the proper maintenance schedule and handling procedures should have been. So I go back to what we talked about a little bit earlier, and that is, it could be that someone mishandled the engines, mishandled the connection at the pylon. They do take these engines on and off to service them. And if there was a mishandling there, inadvertent, I mean, but nevertheless inappropriate, then this could be that simple of a case. I really don't draw any connection between the age of the airplane and the fact that this occurred. I focus on the maintenance procedures, and I'm sure, I've been in court with my experts on the Boeing case, and they're all very interested in this kind of thing. That one gentleman is an ex-NTSB employee who's been investigating air crashes for 40 years, and he said, "Geez, Bob, I think this is a maintenance problem. It's not going to go much beyond that."
Wow. Are you already starting to get phone calls? I mean, it's all, of course, still fresh.
I have been contacted by lawyers who represent families. So yes, we'll see where that goes. It's like that's how it works for me. People say, "Well, how do you get involved in these cases?" People either find us on the internet because we have a great deal of experience with aviation crashes, and also by reputation and with lawyers. I know a lot of lawyers in Louisville who have reached out to me, and a couple, but it's so early in the process. But yes, it does happen that quickly.
Wow. So I would love to know from you, when you see something like this happening, what changes do you think need to be implemented? You've worked with so many different types of cases, and obviously one incident, one plane doesn't go down for the same reason as another. But are there some things that you're still kind of pressing for, like the NTSB or the FAA, to make procedurally or?
No question. There are improvements could be made. Let's start with training. So and let's take this Louisville crash. All right, training relative to maintenance. How nowadays the companies cut a lot of corners. They undertrain their employees. So we're going to have to take a look at how well trained the maintenance personnel were who were allowed to work on this aircraft. That's training is a big deal. Training is a big deal in the cockpit. You know, if you go to the Washington D.C. helicopter crash, where it's an American flight operated by PSA, where a Sikorsky helicopter ran into it, and that was in January of this year. In that particular circumstance, there's a big issue about how well trained the pilots were of the airplane and how well trained the helicopter crew was. So you know, we find the training is a big deal. I know there's about to be a legislative effort to put cameras in the cockpit. You know, right now there are no cameras in cockpits, and the Airline Pilots Association has resisted that. But I think this crash in Louisville, the crash in D.C., those are going to be strong examples of how having cameras in the cockpit could assist the investigators in understanding what occurred in the crash, and that would help us then understand if training or better training is necessary. So you know, there's a terrible thing called graveyard engineering. And that's where people die in order to make things safer.
Yeah.
And because then the engineers get in and say, well, how did we prevent this? I know, representing all of these families, the families want answers to why something happened. Why are we here? They want accountability by those who are responsible, and the legacy they want is that their loved ones didn't die in vain, and they can use this terrible tragedy to improve safety in our country and in aviation safety overall.
Yeah, my. And that DC helicopter, I believe, was on a training mission.
It was absolutely a training mission. They had night goggles on. They were not where they were supposed to be, and the pilots, the allegations in the lawsuit are, I filed the first lawsuit there, and the allegations, based upon consultation with highly qualified experts in good faith, say that the pilots could have been better trained, and also that American Airlines and PSA ignored a significant number of prior near misses. So they had noticed that this kind of tragedy could occur, and it was not a question of if, it was a question of when.
Wow. And when you say that looking at these cases, and you're looking at the training, or you're looking at, you know, the record of maintenance or things of that nature, with the things that you have seen, where does this crash kind of rank on your list of things that you've seen?
Well, this is such a horrific event. Your hearts have to go out to the families of those pilots. There are 3 of them on the plane, 3 crew, as I understand it. Then you have the ground victims. The report right now is that there are 12 people who died. I mean, those families are just beside themselves now. So I know that my clients, I was with clients who lost just when we saw it happen. We saw the news clip. They said, "Oh my God, not again!" And they were saying prayers for these people. So, you know, and then such a horrific. I mean, you saw that explosion, and that's just like that explosion. You know, that had that Air India crash, right? And where the 787 crashed in India. These crashes are, see, they tell you, the experts will tell you that, oh, aviation travel is about the safest mode of transportation ever. Well, you know, there's a measure of that of truth because of the volume of crashes, or excuse me, the volume of miles that people fly without a crash. But the problem is that it's you get into a car crash, fine, you're going to survive it. You get into an airplane crash, the likelihood of your survival is extremely low.
Wow. Well, I think everyone, you know, each time it happens is not again. Even if it's been a while, it still feels like not again. Thank you so much for your time. Again, Attorney Bob Clifford with Clifford Law. You have seen so much, and thank you for
You're very welcome.
giving us some
Good being with
context to what we've seen yet again.
You're welcome. Good with you.
All
Bye-bye.
right, take care. 1:51, let's take a quick break. Who are we going to? Okay, welcome back, everyone. 1:54 right now. We began our time here in Chicago Live talking about that federal injunction that was issued by a judge today here against the agents who have been in our area in this suit about the allegations of excessive force in our area during Operation Midway Blitz. And I want to bring in now David Bowens. He is a partner with Loby & Loby, who was a part of the group that brought this suit. Thank you so much for your time. I know you just stepped out of the courthouse, so thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having us. And that's right, I'm out here in front of the federal building where we just got Judge Ellis's ruling this morning, issuing a preliminary injunction against ICE and the Border Patrol agents and Greg Bovino and the Trump administration for its war of terror unleashed on the city of Chicago.
You call it a war on terror. Obviously, they feel like they are lawfully trying to rid the city of what they say are the worst of the worst individuals, but there was so much evidence that was presented in this case that was kind of antithetical to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I meant a war of terror. Like they are terrorizing our city, our communities, our residents, our people. And so what the court saw, you're absolutely right, is that there's no war happening on the streets of Chicago. It's an imperfect city, but it's not being taken over by riots or violence. Instead, the violence is coming from the federal government. The violence is coming from the officers who are coming into our communities and doing this. And you're also right. They're not searching out the worst of the worst or whatever or anything like that. They are racially profiling people. They are trying to, do we see a brown person on the street, a landscaper at Home Depot? They're showing up in force and in mass. And when people express opposition to that, objection to that sort of treatment, the people, ordinary people like you and me, are met with heinous violence.
So there was a lot of video evidence that was presented in this case, which, we spoke with an attorney earlier today who talked about the fact that that's kind of new, that a judge would have that much video evidence coming from so many different people. But one of the videos that I understand, really became an issue was the one that was presented from the Department of Homeland Security itself.
Right. Absolutely. You know, there are so many videos now, and you're right that it's changed the course of things. And part of that is because there's more people out seeing this happen and taking their own videos. And we love that that is encouraging. That's a community thing. And then, yeah, absolutely. DHS's own videos sort of show that what they're saying publicly isn't true. You know, one of the big videos that was shown last night in court and is now public is from the surveillance footage of Broadview. And that surveillance footage shows that when they shot down at one of our clients, Pastor David Black, and he was shot in the head with pepper balls, that there was no crowd, there was no riot, there wasn't anything. There was just him praying out there, and he was shot for it.
And there, I guess all of those things kind of lend themselves back to this issue of credibility that I know became, you know, a sticking point here, especially when it came to Judge Sarah Ellis speaking to Commander Bovino about, you know, one instance in particular with the rock that he said that was thrown at his head, which was the reason he says he deployed the tear gas. And today she says that was a lie.
Absolutely, and you're right. You are right. That was DHS video again that helped prove that that was not true. So, you know, Bovino and Department of Homeland Security almost immediately after they tear gassed and used other violent acts in Little Village on the 23rd of October, so just a week before Halloween, they came out and said, our agents are being attacked. Bovino got hit in the head with a rock and all of this stuff. And as it turns out, he tear gassed this crowd long before anybody ever threw a rock, long before that ever happened. And the thing was this. He said in a deposition, which took place over 3 days, which is slightly unusual, that the first day he said, you know, I got hit in the head with a rock, and is suggesting that's why he threw the tear gas. And the second day, same thing. And then he had to fess up to it after he was confronted with the video.
So how do you speak to the issue when people say this is further tying of the hands of law enforcement agents?
Well, it's absolutely not in the slightest. The thing that we expect, and I would expect and hope that good, honest law enforcement agents would like a ruling like this, because what we want is to live in a country and a nation where people have constitutional rights, and those rights are respected. And there's a right to protest, and there's also a right to be free from excessive force. That if you're exercising your First Amendment rights, you don't have to be afraid of getting tear gassed or shot with pepper balls just for doing that. And so I would expect that police officers who are sworn to uphold the Constitution would say, absolutely, I want to enforce the Constitution, whatever my mission is, whether it's immigration or drugs or murder or anything, but you're going to respect people's rights, because the rights are the things that keep us safe and that give us our liberty.
And of course, there's this issue of, okay, well, you know, law enforcement officers who are sworn in the city versus these federal agents who say they don't respond, or they don't have to obey necessarily a judge here, that their orders are coming from the executive branch. And the president said over the weekend in a 60 Minutes interview, they actually haven't gone far enough.
It's really terrifying times, but it's actually not the first time. You know what, this schools in the South, when the Supreme Court issued Brown against Board of Education, said, we don't want to desegregate. We don't want to do that. And this is the critical role that the courts play in our system of justice and equality and the rule of law. And so, yeah, sometimes, you know, we have this administration that doesn't want to follow the rule of law, but no one is supposed to be above the law. Certainly not federal agents, certainly not Bovino, certainly not Secretary Noem. And that's why it's of vital importance that the court issued a ruling that says, no, there is restraint, that there is rule of law, that we live in a civilized society. And the government may not like it, just like the South didn't like desegregating the schools, but those are our rights. We know that equality is important, and same thing here. The First Amendment rights of all of us are important. The Fourth Amendment rights to be free of excessive force are important to all of us as well.
And I can hear the passion in your voice, and probably the relief from the ruling today. But I would like to ask you on a final note here, each ruling that's kind of happened here in our area has gone to appeals court and been objected to, gone to appeals, and continued to go round and round. So what are your thoughts on whether this actually goes anywhere from here?
Our case is still going, and we are at the outset of a lawsuit, and this is a preliminary injunction that will exist for the pendency of the lawsuit. And you're right, we do expect, unfortunately, the Trump administration may appeal this ruling. But that's the thing, going all the way back to the top of the story, where there's so much overwhelming evidence here, video after video after video, and sworn statement. We have over 80 declarations from people all over this district, not just in the city of Chicago, but from Waukegan and Evanston and all of Aurora, places like that. And the record here, I can't even, it's hard to describe how significant it is, because there's just so much overwhelming evidence. And we think that a court reviewing this and looking at the facts, looking at our evidence, and as you mentioned, the government's own evidence, their own videos show that their witnesses are not telling the truth. We need our federal government to tell the truth, and we need them to protect our rights. And we think the Court of Appeals, and we hope the Court of Appeals will continue to see it that way.
Okay, David Owens with Lovie and Lovie. Thank you so much. Again, I appreciate your time. I know you literally just stepped outside the courthouse, so we appreciate it.
Yep, thank you so much. Have a great afternoon.
You as well. It's 2:03, everybody. We'll take a quick break. It's 2:05 right now, and for quite some time we've been following this bill that has been going through the State House regarding IHSA, which is the high school sports here in our state, and whether kids could play on teams at school and also play on clubs, or maybe even participate in things outside of school. So I want to bring in State Representative Janet Yang Rohr of Naperville to talk a little bit about where we are now. You sponsored this bill. Where are we at this point with it?
Yeah, believe it or not, right now in the state of Illinois, if you're a student athlete participating in your sport, you cannot participate in that sport outside of your school team without getting disqualified. So after lots of work with lots of partners, lots of stakeholders, and including the IHSA, we're in a really good place, because right now the IHSA members, like athletic directors, principals, they have they have some rule changes in front of them, and they're being asked to look at basically changing those IHSA rules so that if you are a student athlete, if like you're a runner, you will be able to ask for a waiver to go run like that charity race if you want. So this is really good progress for student athletes.
Yeah, I'm thankful that you brought up just the runner aspect of it, because it seemed like one of the most outlandish cases of this was a young person who just ran a 5K on the weekend and then couldn't participate in sports in school.
Yeah, not only that, it was a 5K, but it was a charity race in support of his sister who was hospitalized. And when the IHSA found out, they disqualified him for the whole season. But there was that issue. But what we found is this really even affects especially girls teams and girl student athletes, because a lot of times like what you have is football and basketball that are all aligned across high school and college. But a lot of times like girls soccer, that is not aligned between college and high school. And so when you have states that will allow their student athletes to go and participate in these tournaments where you have all these college scouts, in Illinois, a lot of times our student athletes were not allowed to participate in that. And that really did take away a lot of opportunities for these girls teams and for these girls players.
Sure. On the other side of things, it seems like some of the coaches feel like their job is super hard right now, especially with so many kids wanting to do travel sports outside of their schools. In fact, I see here one quote that says the money spent on travel sports bleeds into the parental expectations at the high school level. So how do you combat this when they say it's only going to exacerbate the issues that they're already dealing with?
Well, the good thing is you don't have to use the waivers if you don't want to go do extra games or extra races. You really don't have to. But the reality is 38 other states already allow this. And it's not only just 38 states, it's a lot of the largest states in the country. So this is like California, New York, Florida, Texas. So this is more than 80% of the United States, of students in the United States can already do this. They're doing it well, and Illinois should join that group.
So the bill just passed the House Education Committee, as you mentioned, with a vote 12-0. So one person, put present, but it seems like you have the backing to get this all the way to the governor's desk and maybe get a signature on it. Is that your feeling right now?
Well, it was a bipartisan vote. We had a lot of support from both sides, and it did pass the House. And so it went over to the Senate. And when it went to the Senate, that's when the IHSA stepped in, and they're like, you know what, we would love to work with you a little bit more collaboratively on this. And so that's what we did. I and the Senator Ron Villavalem, who is the Senate sponsor, worked with the IHSA director and came up with an agreement that will try to address this in a way without legislation. Because a lot of times legislation, if we can find a way to get to what we need for, in these cases, the student athletes, it's a good compromise. And so right now we're trying to make sure that this compromise goes through, and we're very hopeful that this will take care of it for most student athletes.
Okay, and what's our timeline here?
So I believe that they are in the midst of voting pretty soon. And so we should know actually within December whether or not this goes through. And so for student athletes, I was reading through their materials. It'll take place and be in effect within 30 days. So that is right in time for those winter sports and definitely those spring sports.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and again, this permits students to participate in 2 non-school competitions during a sports season and an additional non-school competition that is sanctioned by the national governing body. So we will continue to follow up on this. Please keep us updated.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you for yours. It's 2:11. We'll be right back. Welcome back. It's just about 2:15, and we just got notice that U.S. Senator Tammy Duckworth from right here in Illinois is speaking on the House floor, Senate floor. Let's listen in as she's talking about strikes that have been taking place against boats in the Southern Hemisphere.
I want to look on Truth Social. And as I celebrate my Alive Day next week, I'm going to do my damnedest to make sure other troops get to come home to their families too. It's just one small way I can honor those buddies who saved my life, every other veteran, and all those still in the uniform of our great nation today. If only this 5-time draft dodger hadn't cried bone spurs when his nation needed him the most, then maybe he would understand the first thing about what it means to actually honor those who serve. I yield the floor.
Mr. President,
Senator from Vermont.
I strongly support this resolution. I do want to say thank you to Senator Kaine. And Senator Kaine, I think I speak for you, and I think I speak for every member of the Senate.
Okay, so we kind of came in on the tail end of her conversation there. Again, as she was speaking on the Senate floor about what she calls unlawful, unauthorized strikes on boats in the Southern Hemisphere that she believes have endangered our troops and our country there. Again, that was U.S. Senator Tammy Duckworth. She is a military veteran, and we just heard a bit of it as she was speaking to President Donald Trump and the strikes that have been taking place. All right, it's 2:15. We'll take a quick break, and we'll get back to some conversations on the opposite side of it. Okay, 2:17 right now, and I was saying earlier, McDonald's wants more than a penny for your thought. There's that old term, a penny for your thought. They literally want your pennies, and they say that they cannot give you exact change if you're paying with cash because they're short on pennies. I want to bring in Shell Bandit from UIC Business. He's an associate dean to talk a little bit more about what's going on here and how cash payments are being handled. Thank you for your time.
Thanks a lot for having me.
Okay, explain this issue. And is it only McDonald's?
Actually, seems like a lot of other retailers are following suit. And this is something that's been in the making for a while. As we know, the cost of making a penny is far more than its value. It costs almost 2.7 cents to actually make and distribute a penny. So economically, it's never been a value proposition either for the U.S. Mint or for the retailers that are handling transactions in pennies. So I think this was a trend that was going to come to this point sooner or later. And here we are now, where retailers are now starting to say that they're not going to want to deal with pennies.
So how do we combat that? Do you just, and maybe is the assumption that more people were using their credit cards anyway, but how do we combat it?
I think we have been moving towards a cash light economy for a while. If you think back just 20 years, if you remember, the quarter was the most used coin, right? You needed a quarter to put in the parking meter or ride a bus, make a phone call, and whatnot. And soon the time came where technology and because of other advancements, we hardly have any quarters in our pockets anymore like we used to. So most people are using their credit cards or debit cards or even phone pay or some form or the other. So I think that this is a general trend towards cash light, if not cashless transactions. And McDonald's is just kind of seeing the way that things are moving and being proactive with it.
Now, a skeptic would ask, does it end up being a cash grab if everybody goes in? I mean, sometimes, you go to a place and you have the option to round up for a specific charity. But if there's no option and they're just saying, hey, we can't give you, exact cash back, so we're keeping it, does it end up being a cash grab for these businesses?
That's an excellent question. I don't think so, because the way that rounding works is, you're going to round to the nearest nickel, either up or down. So let's say that your bill is $10.82, you're going to be rounded down to $10.80. Whereas if it's $10.83, then you get rounded up to $10.85. So whichever is closest to the nearest nickel. So there are, statistically speaking, as much of rounding up as there is going to be rounding down. So it should even out over the thousands or even hundreds of thousands of transactions that McDonald's does every day. So I don't think for the company it's going to really be either a money grab or affect their bottom line in any way. And even for consumers, as long as they are shopping at different outlets for different types of things, even if they're paying with cash for every single transaction, it should even out for them as well.
Now, some people point to President Trump for where we are with pennies. How does he factor into this?
Well, this trend is actually not new. So, we've been having these debates for a very long time. It's not just about the current administration. The penny has not been economically viable for a very, very long time. And in fact, I believe that it was Representative Ocasio-Cortez who introduced the bill in Congress to do away with the penny. So it was a bipartisan bill. And so I think there is this sentiment across the aisle on both sides that there is so much saving potential for the U.S. Treasury if we do away with this, economically inefficient transaction. While President Trump may have given a new push to this move, this has been in the making for a very long time.
Yeah, okay. And we're not the only ones who kind of have this practice or this issue.
Absolutely not. I think our nearest neighbor, Canada, did this in 2013. And a lot of other countries around the world, Australia, New Zealand, countries in Asia like India, they've done away with low denomination coins a long time back. And I think for us, the closest benchmark case is Canada, that did away with their pennies in 2013. And they did not see any adverse effect, no inflation. I think there was a little bit of adjustment cost in the beginning as people get used to the idea of not having the penny around anymore. But they soon get used to it. And in an economic sense, there is no adverse effect in the long run.
Does another coin become the next one to fall?
I don't want to predict anything here. I don't call the policy shots, but I do think that a lot of small denomination coins actually are worth less than what it takes to produce them. I believe that the cost of making a nickel is actually more than 10 cents.
Wow.
So I'm not sure what's going to happen next, but I think that we are slowly moving towards a kind of cash light economy. And I wouldn't be surprised if there are some other changes in this direction.
Here's looking at nickels. Okay. Is there anything about this particular issue that you think people really don't understand well that we should be pointing out?
I think there are a couple of things here. One is that I think people have a kind of emotional attachment to the penny. Like you said in the beginning, there are a lot of expressions, and then, a penny for your thought, right? Or pinching a penny. I mean, there's just this part of our culture, and it's so deep that when something like this goes away, I think people react at an emotional level. And we should not underestimate that. I mean, this is a symbol of our life, of how we've been raised. And so we should do well to heed what people are saying in that direction and help them adjust. The other is also, just in economics terms, people overestimate the amount of cash transactions that are happening, or in particular, the use of penny in cash transactions. It's a very, very small percentage of the overall economy. So I don't think the impact is going to be as big as some people might be afraid of.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right, take care. It's about 2:25, everybody. We'll be right back. (2:26) and day 37 of the government shutdown. We have talked a lot about the impacts, the trickle-down effect for so many people that are feeling the impact of what's happening in many different ways in their lives. One of those, of course, has been at the table, and the food that you can supply at the table. We have seen this week, churches come forward to try to feed people in our area. We've checked in with food pantries that had full cupboards, and some who are losing the resources that they have because they are seeing so many people, many of them saying they already had an increase of people coming into this year, and now you put the government shutdown on top of the issues that they were already seeing that were driving people in, and now they are in dire straits. So it is incredible to hear that a health plan system is now giving a sizable donation to food pantries in this area. I want to go ahead and bring in Jeffrey Isbell, the Interim Director of Community Relations at Meridian Health Plan of Illinois, who can talk about this $300,000 that the foundation is giving to food pantries. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be on Chicago Live. Yes, Meridian Health Plan of Illinois, in partnership with the Centene Foundation, is announcing a strategic and timely investment aimed at addressing food insecurity and fighting hunger across Illinois, a $300,000 donation.
Yeah. Have you all done something like this before, or what spurred you to do it right now?
Well, the $300,000 investment from the Centene Foundation and Meridian is an immediate, flexible response intended to act as a lifeline to our communities. However, our efforts go beyond this. This is just a part of our consistent strategy to fight against food insecurity and promote a healthier life for our nearly 1 million members throughout the state.
Yeah, food insecurity really is cyclical when you think about a health system getting involved, because, of course, people who don't have food at the table would have issues that would then have them coming to you.
No, you're absolutely right. Food insecurity is a major barrier to health, leading to poorer outcomes and really higher healthcare costs. At Meridian, we see every day how hunger affects health, dignity, and even opportunity. And that's why this investment of $300,000 is absolutely so important. Food insecurity really does remain one of the most urgent health challenges facing our state.
Mm-hmm. Do you know, are there specific pantries that you all are targeting with this donation?
Yeah, so there's more than 20 pantries and community organizations across the state, including great organizations here in the Chicagoland area, like $75,000 to the Greater Chicago Food Depository, and then other organizations like Loaves and Fish Community Services, and so many others, over 20 statewide.
Yeah, we actually spoke with Loaves and Fish here on the show. So that's wonderful to see, as we were talking to them, in need of donations, that you all are going to be a part of the solution to the problems that they're seeking. And really talk about maybe everyone kind of doing their part from their different ends to help people in this time of need.
Yeah. Our neighbors are struggling. It's the single mom, the family trying to get by, the elderly widow, and so many others. As a company who prioritizes transforming the health of the communities we serve, helping in this manner wasn't just an option, but it was truly a mandate driven by our mission. And every company should be having these sort of discussions on how they can help their neighbors, and every family. I know it's a conversation that I've had with my wife and son as we've went to one of our local blessing boxes just out by a church and filled it with items from our pantry here in our kitchen.
Yeah. When you think of these SNAP benefits being cut, I don't know, in terms of Meridian Health, how many SNAP recipients you deal with on a regular basis, but do you have maybe some demographic information in terms of how this directly impacts you all?
Well, we know that there are over 1.6 million Illinoisans, including 400,000 children, who are facing hunger. And it's donations like this $300,000 donation that will help our community partners and really help our individuals, our members and communities where they live.
So you all have a program called Eat Well, Be Well. It's new for 2025, as I'm seeing here. Tell me a little bit about that.
So Eat Well, Be Well is our new 2025 nutrition and wellness program. It's designed to empower our members from all backgrounds to take control of their life through relevant, affordable, and nutritious meal options. We also have other great programs like Meridian at the Market, partnering with farmers markets in high food insecurity areas of central and southern Illinois. And just this week, actually, we're at through our Meridian at the Supermarket program, we're at Jewel Osco's throughout the Chicagoland area to meet our members, provide nutritional coaching and counseling, and offer blood pressure checks. So once again, this $300 donation is just a key part of our overall strategy to combat food insecurity in Illinois.
Well, we certainly appreciate seeing it and being able to talk to you about what you all are doing. Again, this $300,000 donation from Meridian Health, Plan of Illinois, and Centene Foundation that they are giving to food pantries in such a critical time. Thank you, Jeffrey.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
2:32. We'll be right back. 2:36 right now, and this next conversation is for those of you who really love true crime, and for maybe some families out there who have experienced a missing persons case that deeply affects them. I want to bring in Palatine Police Department Deputy Chief David Brandwine, who's going to talk a little bit about a missing person case that they have, and it's the 27th anniversary now. Thank you for your time.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So, I feel like it was maybe sometime last year when we talked with Elgin Police about a missing persons case in the podcast that they had recently started. Somebody Knows Something is the name of that podcast. And the podcast actually ended up bringing up a case that then opened up the whole case, and they found new information on it. What made you all revisit this case of Anthony Tony Klama after so long?
So, yes, I'm familiar with the podcast as well, and we're hoping for similar results here. Like you mentioned, this week marks the 27th anniversary of Mr. Anthony Tony Klama's disappearance. We're taking a fresh look at the case using some updated technology and investigative tools. We also know that with time, relationships and circumstances do change, and sometimes people who may have stayed silent before are now willing to come forward with some information. So we're hoping this attention will help bring some new information or leads that can finally bring some answers to Tony's family.
Yeah, help us revisit it. For what you know of the case, what were some of the key facts in it?
Yeah, so Mr. Klama was 36 years old at the time of his disappearance. He was last seen on the night of November 5th, 1998, around 11:30 p.m. He's in the parking lot of his apartment building near North Hicks and Rand Road in Palatine, the Foxfire Apartments, with another male who's been described as either a white or Hispanic. He never showed up for work the next day, and he hasn't been seen or heard from since. The time of his disappearance, Mr. Klama is about 6'1". He's described as about 160 pounds, brown hair, green eyes, and a Native American style tattoo on both arms and his chest as well.
What do you say to families? 27 years is a long time. What do you say to families who are still holding out hope that they will get either some justice in a case or, a case actually solved after so long?
Yeah, and again, I would just say to continue to hold out hope. We're still working, and part of the purpose of us bringing this back up to the public's attention right now on its anniversary is we're just appealing for any information that might shed some light on what happened to Mr. Klama. Even the smallest details could help our detectives and our investigations bureau, develop some type of timeline or further evidence in the case. 27 years is a long time, but our goal is to find the truth and to give his family some closure that they've waited a long time for.
Yeah, and we so appreciate you all's dedication to the case. Regardless of whose family it is, I'm sure they are heartened by hearing you say that you are continuing to work toward that end. I would also think 27 years, a lot of technology has changed that could really break ground on something that maybe couldn't have 27 years ago.
Sure. Just like anything in the medical profession, business world, et cetera, the law enforcement world is currently, always changing. There's always updated information and new technology that we can use to hopefully, get a lead or a break on a cold case.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like in this time where people are really tied to like true crime podcasts and things of that nature, though, that some people do get a little false hope?
I would describe it as false hope. Us in the law enforcement community are just hoping that we can rely on our community members and some possible witnesses here, which is always sometimes forgotten about when we're talking about updated technology that can step forward, that may know something, that can bring some important information to light and help our detectives move forward on this case.
Yeah, and we're talking about this one that's 27 years old. Are there some others, do you have like a stack of missing persons cases that you all are all working on simultaneously, or how is that? Are there several, or maybe this is just one of a few?
Yeah, I mean, the department is constantly, running down leads and looking into cases, whether they're just reported today or, in Mr. Klama's case 27 years ago. We're always working and trying to, like I said, bring some closure for the family and investigate and run down new leads. So we're relying heavily on the public for this. If somebody knows something and is willing to step forward, that's what we're looking for here today with Mr. Klama's case.
Deputy Chief Brandwine, is there a number or that people need to call, or how do you want people to get in contact with you if they slightly, even remotely remember something that could help?
Yes. Yeah. Specifically, we're appealing to 2 individuals who mailed an anonymous letter to Crime Stoppers with information about this case back in 2014. We believe that they may have additional information that could be considered significant in this case. So we're asking those individuals or anyone that knows anything about this to come forward and speak directly with our detectives. This information could be critical in helping us move this case forward, and they can contact the Palatine Police Department. It's 847-359-9000. Again, 847-359-9000, and let us know that you have some information on Mr. Klama's case.
Thank you so much for your dedication on this case and on a regular basis. We appreciate what you do.
We appreciate you guys as well.
All right, you take care. It's 2:42. We'll take a quick break. Welcome back, everyone. It's just about 2:45, and right around this time yesterday, we were seeing cranes out at Millennium Park that were lowering the official Christmas tree for Chicago into the park, and we know that in just a few weeks, they will light that. I believe it's November 21st when they will light that tree. Some people may feel like it's a little too early for all of the Christmas talk, but I'm one of the folks that believes, hey, if it puts a smile on some people's faces, I'm all for it, even if it may be too early for me. So Metra is going to be operating their popular holiday trains coming up shortly, and I want to bring in Meg Thomas Riley, a Metra spokesperson, to talk more about it. Thanks so much for joining me. Okay, I think I cannot hear you. Let's see, you might be on mute.
I'm off mute now.
Okay. All right. So I really appreciate you making some time to talk about this, because it is one of the things that just brings a smile to some people's faces. And I feel like there's so many things that are tough and hard for people right now, that wherever we can find a bright spot, let's do it.
We're completely on board with that. Pardon the pun, but yes, this is our time of year to bring the holiday spirit to our customers and people across Chicagoland with these holiday trains. Tickets go on sale for the holiday event trains at noon on November 17th, and they go quick. It's $10 per person, limited 5 tickets per person, but they go quick. But in addition to that, these trains will be in regular service across our lines, so people will have the opportunity to see them and maybe board one and ride it. But the special event trains go on sale November 17th, and shop.metra.com is where you go. Be ready at noon, because I'm going to tell you, they will probably sell out within 5 minutes.
Oh my goodness, 5 minutes. But we've all been warned. We have all been warned. And I do.
Yeah, I'm just warning you now. But at the same time, if you can't get on one of those trains, you will have an opportunity to see them. They will be out and about.
Turn into a kid when I see them. I have been like sitting at dinner in an enclosed space, and I'll see one going by, and I'm like, when I see it going by. They are electric, quite literally. Tell me about these events. What events do you have lined up?
Basically, on 5 of our lines, we will have special trains on 3 separate weekends. And those weekends can be found at metro.com, specific details. But basically, it's a trip downtown that the family can take. We'll have holiday characters, gift bags, singing, all kinds of fun on the train. Now, those riding the Metro Electric line, when they get downtown, we have some very generous sponsors. AT&T and Chick-fil-A at State and Lake are going to help us create a Winter Wonderland event down there with face painting, games, and treats for the family. And in addition, all our other, that's an extra event on top. You don't pay any more for it, but it is available on the Metro Electric line trains. At the other stations, we'll have decorations. Basically, it's a chance to take the train, come downtown, visit, say, the tree, go look at the windows in the shops, or the Chris Kindle Market, have a good time, and your ticket then is good to get you back home on any train.
Wow.
For the rest of the day.
Awesome. You make it a whole day of it.
Basically, yeah.
So if they go in 5 minutes, that means people are waiting on this opportunity. Tell me a little bit about how excited people get about this time.
Yeah, these are incredibly popular, and we wish we could do more of them, but this is what we can fit in this year, because we do have to run regular schedules for the rest of us who need to get around. But it's a chance to go out there. People wait for them, and I have to say, our employees have a great time putting together and figuring out their decorating themes and getting everything together. So it's a great team building exercise within the agency. But then all the people, for the most part, the people on board are also Metro employees. They just may be disguised as elves having a good time.
Now, if there's elves out there, did you mention whether somebody from the North Pole is going to be joining us?
Yeah, Santa and Mrs. will be on board the trains, and at Millennium, as part of the Christmas party, you'll have an opportunity to sit down and tell Santa what you need for Christmas or what you wish for the new year.
Does that go for adults too?
I have no shame. I'd stand in line.
I love it. And here's another thing that I love. You all are donating some tickets to children from the Boys and Girls Club of Chicago. Tell me a little bit about that.
We do that every year. We formed that partnership when we re-inaugurated the holiday trains about 5 years ago. We wanted to make sure that children that wouldn't normally have the opportunity to go to a big Christmas event had that opportunity. So we partnered. Boys and Girls Club was a natural partner, and so we've been doing that with them the whole way through. And this year, for the people at Millennium, we've also partnered with Easter Seals for a booth where they'll create some buttons and things for people. It's just another opportunity to interact with the community and to do some good.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And to tag on to that, in addition,
breaking news.
I'm sure you know, we have a Toys for Tots drive every year too that we sponsor. And that'll be on December 9th at all our downtown stations.
Awesome. Thank you so much for letting us know. And again, give us the pivotal information for when people need to jump on it one more time before I let you go.
Okay. Tickets go on sale at noon, November 17th. You need to go to shop.metra.com. And that's where you can purchase your tickets. Limit 5 per purchaser, $10 a piece. And if you want more information on the trains, you can go to metra.com, click on the holiday train link, and you'll get specific schedules for the different lines.
Meg, thank you for being so holly and jolly today. I appreciate it.
No problem. You have a great day.
You have a great day as well. Love talking to her about that. Love what they're doing. And again, there's just nothing like Christmas time in Chicagoland. It really is magical. But right now we are in fall. Those colors out there around Millennium Park, just gorgeous. Seeing the reds and the yellows and the greens, and a few folks out there at the Bean right now. Now, here's the thing. While we talk about fall, we also have to talk about fall flakes that will be flying soon. I had to take that slow. I got that from Mike Kaplan this morning. I'm not even gonna fake it like I made that up, but I had to take it slow.
You're creative there.
It's gonna make us feel a little bit more like winter is coming quick.
So we're getting a preview this coming weekend. You know, we've kind of been talking about it for the last couple of days, but it's looking more and more like it's actually going to come to fruition. So for those of you that have been waiting on some snowflakes, which I don't know how many of us there really are for this early in the season that we're this looking forward to it. But yes, we are going to be seeing some snow. So let's break down some of those details. We have a couple storm systems that are going to be coming through the region. So the first one's going to be here tonight into early tomorrow morning, and that's going to be bringing us a chance of rain, but then it's out of here, I think, before daybreak for a lot of us on Friday. So the best chance of rain on Friday is actually before the sun even comes up, and then we're going to see decreasing clouds. Take advantage of tomorrow. Get outside and have a good time, because we're looking at temps that are going to be in the 60s. Do you see what's after that?
Nope, I don't see it at all. I don't see it.
I think we're going to have not so much selective hearing, but like selective seeing when it comes to the 7-day forecast. Because on Saturday, that high of 50, I think that's going to be right around midday. Then we drop into the 40s. And then eventually at night, we're going down into the 30s. So that rain is going to be transitioning over to snow. I think we're going to have some light grassy accumulations, elevated surfaces, possibly on your cars, things like that. Yes, so we're going to have that quick hit of snow Saturday night into early Sunday. But temperatures on Sunday, they're going to top out above the freezing mark. So that snow is going to melt. It's not going to be sticking around. Ground temperatures are still above the freezing mark as well. But then Sunday into Monday, it's looking like we're going to see lake effect snow being possible.
Now, is that everybody?
Not everyone. So whenever it comes to lake effect, it's very localized in nature. You know, it really depends on exactly where those bands are going to set up. And that's something, honestly, the science, it's just not there. We cannot do that far in advance. So I can't tell you whether it's going to be Lake County, Indiana, LaPorte County, Indiana. But what we can say is a general region. So it's most likely that we're going to be seeing some lake effect bands setting up across portions of Northwest Indiana. It's just a matter of how long do they stay put in one spot. That's always key. And for those of you in Northwest Indy, you know the drill. You know how this goes, right? You can have a couple inches come down in one location and then 5 miles away get nothing. So that's what we're going to be dealing with Sunday and Monday. But there is a small element that's looking like we could potentially for a few hours get a northeasterly breeze. And what that means is it could become Chicago's problem.
Oh, come on.
I know. I knew you were going to
Not that we want to isolate it to our friends in Indiana.
Yes, but it looks like at least for a few hours, Sunday going into Monday, that we could actually see some of those bands working into northeastern Illinois as well. So something to watch, but is it going to be something that I think really impacts our weekend that much? No. If you have travel plans, I think you're going to be fine. Road temperatures are still above the freezing mark. We're in decent shape. Obviously, if the snow is falling, crews are going to be out there, and we're still dealing with temperatures that is going to be very effective when salt's put on the road. So we should be just fine. I'm not expecting any travel impacts Saturday night into early Sunday. It's more so going to be when those bands come through Sunday into Monday.
You talked about salt being put on the road, so this will kind of be a first test of the system. We're gonna have to put in some calls about that.
This is our practice run, right, to kind of see how it goes. And a lot of people have actually asked me, is this early? It feels early, but it's not. So our average first trace of snowfall is actually Halloween. So we're running, about a week behind schedule with that. But it looks like our first measurable snowfall, meaning 1/10 of an inch or higher, I believe that date is November 10th. So we're pretty on par with where we should be.
Yeah. Now, there were two things, if we can go back to that 7-day, two things that I want to point out and talk about. One would be that football game on Sunday.
Yes, cold.
Cold, and are they going to be...
They could be dealing with some of that lake effect snow coming down. But I will say, even with high temperatures that are going to be in the upper 30s, I do think that the majority of the precipitation that's coming down is likely going to be in the form of snow. Now, close to the lakefront, which of course we know Soldier Field is, it's looking like we could potentially have a little bit of rain mixing in. So if you're planning on going to that game, just know that it's going to be definitely on the cooler side here. This is going to feel like November football. And I believe that Veterans Day...
That was the second thing I was going to point out. Yeah, on Tuesday.
So looking like we're going to be in the 40s. So... at least a little bit warmer, and we should stay dry on Tuesday.
Well, the good thing about that is, a lot of veterans will go to maybe some restaurants that hopefully are free for them on Veterans Day, so they can get inside and get away from the cold air, but it might feel warm by the time we go through what we're going through. So it's the Giants against the Bears at 12 o'clock on Sunday that we're still looking at with a question mark there, but for everything else,
yeah, just get ready for it, because we're going to be much cooler early next week. But I will say it's not going to stick around by late next week. We're back up into the 50s. So if you have plans for the following weekend, it should be much nicer.
Okay, so we're not like going down into the basement and staying there.
No.
We're going to come back upstairs.
In fact, I think a lot of us, we're going to use the heat for a couple days, and then we'll probably be able to give it a rest late next week, especially with the sunshine coming back out.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That is the word from Chief Meteorologist Emily Walls. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Let's give you one last look back outside, everybody, as we kind of gear up for what is ahead. We know that, as she said, things are changing out there. We've covered a lot of ground today. We've talked about a lot of things here. We didn't get to our Casey Cronus, but I just wanted to tell you a little bit about what she's working on before we get out of here today. So we talked a lot about the government shutdown and the impacts for so many different people. We've talked about different corporations and a health system and others who are working together to try to help people in this time of need, especially with SNAP benefits running out. And I did want to let you know that she's working on a story that you will see at 4, 5, and 9 o'clock tonight that's about how an organization is trying to help people with their furry family members. You don't want to leave out, if you are counting your money right now, if you have a fixed income, if you are looking at every line item matters right now. And so that goes into the care for your furry family members as well. And so she's working on this aspect of it today, that trickle down effect for pet owners and those who are trying to help them afford pet food, other supplies there, several organizations that are trying to step up and help in this real time of need for so many people. So again, just, when you talk about government shutdown, there's so many different aspects of it. We've talked about air travel. Are you getting ready for any flights anytime soon?
Fortunately, I'm not. But that's going to be a big topic going into the holiday season.
It is a big one, and that is, then you add the weather on top of it.
Yes.
And you just never know.
It's already a very iffy time of year with the weather, but adding this on top of it could really, really create some headaches.
It is. 10% of flights now being affected at 40 different major airports. That does include O'Hare and Midway. So some big stories that we're following, but when there's a big story, there's lots of other aspects of it that we're also breaking down. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Mr. President, I want to take a moment to contrast this resolution regarding Venezuela with the one we considered recently in the Senate regarding applying the War Powers Resolution to the President's action blowing up boats and people in international waters. And I see my colleague, Senator Kaine, on the floor, and I want to thank him for bringing both these resolutions before the body. But I wanted to mention the earlier resolution because just earlier today, I read the Trump administration's so-called justification for the actions that they are taking in international waters to strike these boats that have killed 67 people. And I have followed the war powers debate for a very long time, as have many of my colleagues. And Mr. President, what I read was 35 pages of pure gobbledygook, pure mumbo jumbo. Clearly a lawyer who had to work really hard to justify a decision that had already been made. That's what that 35 plus whatever page report was. And as my colleague Senator Reid talked about, to justify the actions that the president's been taking about going after boats in international waters requires such a strained reading of the war powers set out in the Constitution and subsequently that it would blow up a hole so big that would essentially absorb the Article I requirement that Congress be the one that declare war. So based on my reading of that statement, there's zero justification for what the president's doing with respect to strikes in the Caribbean. I do want to point out, as of my colleagues, that if you're actually serious about preventing drugs from coming to the United States, as we all should be, the way you do it is you interdict those boats, you go up the chain to find the kingpins, and you go after them. I'll tell you what you don't do. You don't submit a budget to the United States Congress that cuts the funding for the Drug Enforcement Agency and cuts funding for the task forces we've developed to go after major organized crime syndicates involved in the drug business. I happen to be the ranking member of the Appropriations Committee that oversees the Justice Department, and all my colleagues have to do is take a look at the requests from the President of the United States when it comes to resources for fighting drugs coming to the United States. They cut them. They cut those resources. So that's not what this is about. And what this is about is a violation of the Constitution. It was just a few months ago that President Trump was asked whether he needs to uphold the Constitution of the United States. I don't know if my colleagues remember what his answer was, but it's right there in the record for all of you to read it. The president said, "I don't know. I don't know." Our job here is to make it clear to the president and to everybody else that all of us have to adhere to the Constitution of the United States. And that's what this War Powers resolution does. If we don't want to surrender those constitutional responsibilities to the President of the United States, we need to vote for this resolution, which, as I read at the very beginning of my remarks, is very clear. It simply says the president cannot go to war against Venezuela without congressional authorization. So let me just end with this, Mr. President. We're here in the middle of a government shutdown. I have now voted 7 times to reopen the government without giving President Trump a blank check and dealing with the healthcare crisis that's in front of us. President Trump has not engaged in any way in that discussion. He's been traveling around the world. He wanted to meet with Kim Jong-un, the North Korean leader, who apparently said no. He's using at least $20 billion of U.S. taxpayer money to bail out his buddy in Argentina. Meanwhile, here at home, prices are going up and up and up. The president promised he was going to bring them down on day one. Right now, before us, we have a ticking time bomb that's going to explode healthcare costs in America, especially when it comes to the Affordable Care Act. Our colleagues on the other side of the aisle, they passed what they called was a big, beautiful bill. Beautiful if you're a billionaire, because they extended the tax cuts for billionaires permanently. The one tax relief provision that they let lapse was that helps middle-class Americans better afford their health care. So the message all of us should send to the President of the United States is quit engaging in illegal actions in the Caribbean and international waters, blowing up boats and people in an extrajudicial fashion. And when it comes to Venezuela, stop making these threats and amassing military assets off the shore and claiming you somehow have the authority to do that. The Constitution invests the authority to go to war with the United States Congress. That's what this resolution is all about. And I urge my colleagues to support it, and I yield the floor.
Chair recognizes the senator from Louisiana.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, this weekend I watched, probably like you, a number of folks go on television and confidently predict that we were going to be out of the shutdown. Some said as early as Wednesday. One confidently predicted Thursday. A couple more said Friday. So when I came back on Monday, I was pretty sanguine about things. It gives me no joy to say this, but I was wrong. I don't know, as bad as this multiple vehicle pileup looks from the outside, you ought to see it from the inside. I know you know what I'm talking about, Mr. President. The Republicans have voted 14 times to come out of the shutdown. My Democratic friends have voted 14 times to stay shut down. And I think it's going to be like that for a while. I used to have a beagle, Mr. President. I loved him to death. His name was Roger. He was a rascal. Roger would run off. He was a rabbit dog that we picked up as a stray. Roger would run off for 3 days, scare me to death. I was afraid he was going to die. And after 3 days, he'd come staggering back home, and he always had roadkill in his mouth. And he would hide that roadkill under my back porch. And where we are now, in negotiating out of this shutdown, looks like something Roger used to hide under my back porch. We're supposed to have a vote tomorrow. We don't know what we're voting on, but we've been promised we're going to have a vote. And I hope we do, and I hope I'm wrong, and I hope we come out of this shutdown very soon. But I'm not going to lie to the American people. I think we're going to be in it for a while. Now, as everyone knows, folks aren't being paid while we're in a shutdown. Our air traffic controllers are not being paid. In fact, starting tomorrow, the airlines are going to be canceling flights. Our staffs are not being paid. Federal employees are not being paid. These young men and women here, our pages, are not being paid. Our military is only being partially paid. I'm confused about SNAP payments. Some say the payments are being made. Some say they aren't. I don't know who's telling the truth, but I do know this. I don't think anybody wants to see anybody hungry in America. The only people that I can ascertain who are being paid are members of Congress. Now, I'm not being paid. I said I wasn't going to take a salary during the shutdown.